Across cities and provinces, reports suggest Iranian security forces have launched what observers describe as a nationwide dragnet, a coordinated effort to identify and detain individuals allegedly linked to recent protest activity. Human rights groups say arrests have expanded beyond public demonstrations, reaching into neighborhoods, workplaces, and online spaces. Officials in Tehran maintain that the measures are necessary to restore public order and prevent unrest from escalating. Critics argue the sweep reflects tightening state control amid growing economic frustration and political tension. Video clips circulating online show increased police presence, checkpoints, and plainclothes officers detaining individuals in multiple regions. While the full scale of arrests remains difficult to verify independently, analysts note that Iran has historically relied on coordinated security responses during periods of nationwide protest. Tonight, we break down how large-scale security operations are structured, what legal framework authorities cite, how protest movements evolve under pressure, and what this could mean for Iran's domestic stability and its relationship with the international community. Because when enforcement expands nationwide, the implications extend far beyond a single city. In countries facing widespread unrest, security agencies often rely on centralized intelligence coordination. In Iran, internal security responsibilities are typically shared among police forces, intelligence units, and paramilitary organizations such as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. These bodies can operate simultaneously across multiple provinces, using shared databases and surveillance tools to track individuals suspected of organizing demonstrations. A dragnet approach generally involves identifying protest organizers, monitoring communication channels, reviewing social media activity, and conducting targeted home visits. Authorities may also establish temporary checkpoints and increase patrols in high-traffic areas to deter gatherings. Government statements usually frame such actions as enforcement of public order laws. Human rights organizations, however, often scrutinize whether due process protections are upheld and whether detainees are granted legal representation. Large-scale security sweeps tend to follow waves of protest rather than precede them. The goal is often twofold: prevent further mobilization and signal state capacity to maintain control. In the current situation, analysts are watching whether enforcement remains localized or continues expanding into broader segments of society. Iran's constitution formally recognizes the right to peaceful assembly, but in practice, demonstrations require government authorization. Authorities often cite national security statutes, public order laws, or provisions related to acting against state security when detaining individuals during periods of unrest. These legal categories can be interpreted broadly, allowing prosecutors to frame protest-related activity under charges ranging from unlawful gathering to propaganda offenses. During previous waves of nationwide protest, courts have processed cases through both civilian judicial systems and, in certain instances, specialized revolutionary courts. Human rights observers frequently monitor these proceedings, noting concerns about transparency, access to legal counsel, and due process standards. Government officials argue that enforcement actions are necessary to prevent violence, protect infrastructure, and maintain stability. Critics counter that expansive interpretations of security law risk criminalizing peaceful dissent. The legal tension between constitutional rights and security enforcement has long shaped the protest landscape inside the country. As arrests expand geographically, legal experts are watching whether formal charges are publicly disclosed and whether proceedings follow established judicial protocols. Modern protest movements rarely unfold solely in physical streets. Digital platforms play a central role in organizing gatherings, sharing footage, and coordinating messaging.
In response, security agencies increasingly rely on surveillance technologies, including online monitoring, facial recognition systems, telecommunications tracking, and data analysis tools. Iran has previously implemented temporary internet restrictions during periods of unrest, limiting the speed or accessibility of certain platforms. Authorities often justify such measures as necessary to prevent misinformation or external interference. Critics argue that communication disruptions restrict freedom of expression and make independent verification of events more difficult. Digital surveillance allows security forces to identify networks rather than just individuals. Analysts note that once authorities map communication patterns, arrests may follow days or even weeks after protests subside. This extended timeline can create a climate of uncertainty, as individuals remain unsure whether past participation may lead to later detention. The interplay between technology and enforcement has transformed how nationwide dragnets operate, extending reach beyond physical protest sites into digital spaces. Domestically, reactions appear mixed and highly localized. Some citizens express support for measures framed as restoring order, especially in areas where demonstrations disrupted daily life. Others voice concern about the scale of detentions and potential long-term social impact. Internationally, governments and human rights organizations have issued statements calling for restraint and transparency. Diplomatic reactions often balance criticism of enforcement methods with broader geopolitical considerations, including nuclear negotiations, regional security dynamics, and economic sanctions frameworks. Media coverage outside Iran frequently relies on activist networks, satellite imagery, and verified video clips due to limited direct access for foreign journalists. This dynamic can contribute to competing narratives about the scope and intent of security actions. As global attention fluctuates, the internal consequences may ultimately outweigh external commentary. Public trust, economic pressures, and generational expectations all influence how enforcement campaigns are perceived over time. Nationwide security operations can temporarily suppress visible protest activity, but long-term stability depends on underlying economic, political, and social factors. Analysts suggest that enforcement alone rarely resolves grievances related to employment, inflation, or governance concerns. The current moment represents a familiar cycle: protest, response, international reaction, recalibration. Whether this cycle intensifies or stabilizes depends on decisions made in the weeks ahead, both by authorities and by civic groups. For Iran's leadership, the objective is clear: maintain control and prevent escalation. For citizens seeking reform or expression, the path forward may shift toward quieter forms of organization or renewed public demonstrations, depending on enforcement outcomes. History shows that periods of heightened tension can either harden political divides or open channels for dialogue. The trajectory from here remains uncertain. But when enforcement spans an entire nation, the implications extend far beyond immediate arrests, shaping political, social, and diplomatic landscapes for months or years to come.